Jeans! I love selling jeans on eBay. As a reseller, I sell a lot of clothing, and probably my favourite aspect of clothing to sell are jeans. There's just something about them, isn't there? And to be fair, when you think about it, it's probably a fair assumption to say that most people own at least one pair of jeans, so they've definitely got a universal appeal, and that's why I love buying them to resell them on eBay. Now, there are so many different types of jeans, different fits, different cuts, different washes, different sizes. There really is something for everyone in the jeans department. But there's also a lot of fodder, and there are a lot of jeans that don't sell well at all. And across my time as a reseller, I found that certain jeans sell really well, certain jeans sell okay, and other jeans just don't sell well at all. So I thought I'd put together a bit of a video, a bit of a sort of tier list, if you were, ranking certain jean manufacturers in order of their sort of resellability. That isn't a word, but I'm going to put it in here anyway. So I've got 9 manufacturers to go through. Now, bit of a disclaimer, and these are all manufacturers that I've sold multiple pairs of jeans of. There are other manufacturers that I've sold only individual pairs of. Dolce & Gabbana, D Squared, True Religion. Now, these are all fantastic jean manufacturers, but because I've only sold one pair, I can't vouch for how well they sell. Yeah, sure, they sell for a good price, but in terms of how long they take to sell, I can't really vouch for them because I've only had one. I don't want to state something that's completely false because they could be one-offs, like one-off sales or flukes. So I'm going to stick to what I know in terms of taking the average sale metric, so to speak, of the jean manufacturers that I have sold. And like I said, we're going to rank them. Few controversies in here, I will be honest, but this is just how I've found selling certain jeans. Now, second disclaimer is this is definitely a sort of rule or law of averages. Let's take Levi's for example. There are many different tiers of Levi's, different numbers, different parameters, what have you. I'm taking the average of the brand as a whole rather than just focusing on the performance of, say, the 501s. So how's this tier list going to work? Well, I'm afraid I'm not graphically savvy to have the tier list on the screen, but I'm going to have it at the end of each sort of section. 4 categories, A, B, C or D. Keep it nice and easy. Obviously A, jeans that I really like looking out for, really happy to find them, can get them for a good price, got a great return. Down to D, jeans I probably wouldn't bother with. If you can get them dirt cheap, you can sell them cheap, then that's fine. That's your sort of mode of operation. But for the most part, jeans on the D tier, I would avoid. So, without further ado, let's get into the first one. Let's start off with the big one. I've just mentioned it. It's Levi's. Now, if you mention Levi's, I mean, it's a household name. It's probably the most well-known jeans manufacturer across the world. Huge following, huge demand for these guys, but also a huge supply as well. Think about it. If you go onto a wholesaler's website, there's a high chance that you'll be able to buy a massive sack of a number of kilograms of Levi's. They are everywhere. And because they're so well known, and because there is a demand for them, they're typically priced up higher than other brands of jeans. For instance, go into a charity shop, you might find a pair of Levi's. They might be priced at a tenner or more. I mean, I see them up for almost £30 in certain places. It just blows your mind, really. Thinking, second-hand pair of Levi's, 30 quid, that's more than eBay. So because they're known about, you are probably going to pay up for them. But then you're thinking, but surely I can get a better return on them. But can you? And here's the first controversy of this video. I'm not a big fan of Levi's. Yes, 501s sell. 511s and premium stuff with a big E, and like occasional vintage pieces can all sell fairly well. But everything else, not so much. So like I said, 501s are like the classic Levi design. You've got the 511, which is more of a slimmer fit, and then the premium ones, which apparently have a better sort of stitching and material composition, but I wouldn't say there's a huge amount in it. But apart from those guys, 505s, 506s, 512s, 541s, just to name a few, the demand for them just really isn't there. But also with Levi's, they're so hyped up. When you think about it, yes, the demand is strong, but also the supply is really big as well. Type into eBay Levi's and see how many search results you get. It's thousands upon thousands upon thousands. So if you find a pair of Levi's to sell, say a pair of 501s, you can pretty much guarantee that you are competing against a lot of other people on eBay selling the exact same item as you, and that can affect the price. Unless your jeans are immaculate, they might have a couple of flaws, that does reflect in the price, and you're kind of vying for that sale, bringing the price down a little bit. So there is that to think about. So that being said, Levi's, I'm going to put them on the B tier. Could be an A tier brand if the supply wasn't so much, but like I said, because you're competing with everyone else, and the fact that the initial purchase price can be a lot higher, I don't know, it just kind of takes away some of the fun for me. So yeah, Levi's, good brand, but a bit saturated, B tier. Jeans manufacturer, number 2. Now, I need to maintain a neutral bias here, just to be fair across the board, but manufacturer 2 is one of my favourite brands of jeans to sell, and that is Diesel. I love Diesel jeans. In fact, this very pair of Kivas I've had since 2009. I've worn them to death, but they remain in really, really good condition. Just shows the quality of them, and that really helps with the resale market. I mean, Diesel jeans, still a well-known brand. You'd still be expected to pay up for these, certainly in a charity shop, but the returns can be really, really good. So like Levi's, there are loads of different models, like Kiva, Zathan, Wakey, just to name a few. They can be made in Italy, they can be made in Tunisia. I just really enjoy finding them and buying them. I find the demand is really good. The supply isn't as big as Levi's. The demand probably isn't as strong as well. But you know, if you find a pair in a particular wash, in a particular size, that you are competing against far fewer people than with Levi's, and that really does help the resale factor. It's gonna have to be an A tier. It's gonna have to be an A tier brand of jeans. Neutral bias, in play. I just love them. I just love finding them out and about. The only thing I say is just make sure that they are legitimate. It is a brand that is faked, unfortunately, but just check the stitching, check all the wash tags. They typically look something like this, with the Diesel sort of embroidered logo there and all the correct stuff. But if you can find a legitimate pair and a good size at a good price, you're in the money. Okay, jeans brand number 3. And this is more of a left field choice, to be fair. And that brand is, hopefully it's going to focus, 7 for All Mankind. And there's a little logo. So 7 for All Mankind I first discovered, I think, through an early Chatty Pete video. You certainly sort of introduced me to the brand, sort of what it stood for and how well they sell at resale. And since then, I'm talking probably like a couple of years ago now, since then I found the demand for these has dropped a little bit. Certainly for the smaller sizes, they remain a decent brand of jeans to pick up. Certainly not as well known as Diesel or Levi's, so you can probably be more likely to find a bargain in a charity shop, for instance, or at a car boot sale. Now, I haven't found very many pairs of these. This is actually a pair I've got for myself, nice cotton elastane composition. The thing is with these guys, and it affects a lot of clothing brands too, the RRP is, it's considerable. I would never spend RRP on a pair of these, but the resale value just isn't there. You might spend £100 on a pair of these, but then in terms of second-hand market, you might struggle to get 20. It's really strange. If you look at eBay sold listings, a lot of 7 for All Mankind jeans are well below £20. Yes, there are exceptions, but across the board, that seems to be about the going rate. So, similar to Levi's in many respects, there just doesn't seem to be the demand for these guys at the moment. I'm sure it'll pick up again. Most clothing goes through like peaks and troughs, but for whatever reason, 7 for All Mankind right now just isn't all that, which is a shame because they are a good quality jeans manufacturer. With that being said, where would I rank them? I think it's going to have to be C tier, which is a bit of a shame because that's a bit of a disservice to the brand. But they just do not sell as well as they once did, or could. They could do so much better, but they don't. So for the time being, worth picking up if you can find them cheap. Just don't expect a great return. So 7 for All Mankind, good brand, but could be better. Now this next brand number 4, is an exception to the rule in terms of, well, I'll just show you, look. It's Tommy Hilfiger. Now Tommy Hilfiger upper body stuff, I wouldn't touch with a barge pole. For whatever reason, at this moment in time, the demand for it just isn't there at all. Given the high RRP, given the quality of the garments, for whatever reason, Tommy Hilfiger stuff just does not seem to sell, at least not on eBay. So I've kind of put that to one side. However, Tommy jeans, Hilfiger denim, that sort of thing, whatever they want to call it, I find sells quite well. In fact, I'd probably say it sells better than Levi's. Now, like all jeans manufacturers, there's a real mix of different names and fitments and washes and stuff, I find for the most part they sell for around £25 on average. Sometimes a bit lower, sometimes a little bit higher, but if you want to get a sale within about 4 years, then about £25 is the best bet. Now, of course, Tommy Hilfiger, again, being a household name, you are probably likely going to pay up a little bit for these, certainly in charity shops, but I'm happy to pay £5, £6, even £7 for the right model and the right size, because I know hopefully it won't take too long to sell when I do list it. So where would I rank them? I give them a B, and I feel a bit bad giving them a B because they got the potential to be an A, but I think because they are like a well-known name, they are typically priced up at car boot sales and charity shops. If you can get them really cheap, they're in good condition, a good size, they are pretty much an A tier brand of jeans. But for the most part, again, taking them sort of the average across the board, B tier. But do not knock Tommy Hilfiger jeans because they can sell really well. Brand number 5, and again, another brand that I think should do so much better, is Replay. Now, I've been fortunate to find a few pair of Replay jeans recently. The first time I found them was at a car boot sale, and I picked up 3 pairs. 2 were the Replay Ambas, and 1 was the Replay Waitom. All fairly small sizes. I think they were all length 30, and the waist width was about 33, something like that. And the Ambas is sold really quickly and sold pretty strongly as well. Paid £2 each. I think they sold for sort of around about £30 mark. I thought, Replay, I've been sleeping on this amazing jeans brand. Why am I not buying more? So then I went out and bought more pairs, and guess what? They haven't sold. So I think you're gonna have to take Replay with a little pinch of salt, because it does seem that certain names, certain jean types sell really well, there's a strong demand for them, but other jean types less so. In fact, like, I've had hardly any interest in the other models I've bought. I had a pair of Waitoms and I've had a pair of Biltongs, something like that. Nothing, not even like a sniff. I think the demand for Replays is even more undulating than Levi's. There's a real spectrum of like high demand stuff, and then stuff that just doesn't have a demand at all. So with that being said, where would I rank Replay? I think it's going to have to be a C, just because the Replays that I've had sold well are grossly outnumbered by those that haven't. So, and again, it's the law of averages. Yes, those couple of pairs sold really well, but looking through my spreadsheet, looking through what has sold in the past, other sort of types of Replays have taken ages to sell and haven't sold for that much, or at least not as much as I was sort of hoping for. So yeah, it's gonna have to be C. Just if you find some, great, but I'd probably look them up in the shop or wherever you are with Signal, because just because they sell well potentially, they might take ages to sell in order for you to get that price. So sorry Replay, it's a good manufacturer, good quality jeans, just the demand unfortunately just isn't there, and ultimately it all comes down to supply and demand. So sorry Replay, but that's how I feel about you. Brand number 6, Nudie Jeans. Now, bit of a disclaimer with Nudie Jeans, I've only ever found 3 pairs of Nudie Jeans out in the wild. They've all been a really small size, like waist width 30 or 32 inches, and then the inside leg I think has only ever been 30, and I think they've all been Nudie Grim Tims as well, which is a certain sort of style of jean they do. But they've all sold really well, even in a small size. I'd say I'd typically rank Nudie on a similar vein to True Religion. I think they're of that sort of ilk. So more of a left field choice, perhaps a better sort of quality of garment, let's say typical Levi's, even Diesels and Replays, but they've got a really strong following. So I definitely put Nudies high up on the chart. Where though? You know what? I think they're gonna have to be an A tier. Just, I'd love to find a larger pair, like a larger size, just to see how well they do. But from what I've seen, from what I've experienced, Nudie Jeans, fantastic. Not so well known, so there's still a potential to find a good bargain in charity shops, even at car boot sales. Often overlooked perhaps, but if you can find them, they should net you a pretty penny on when you sell them. So yeah, Nudie Jeans, I'm gonna give them an A. I'm gonna give Diesel Jeans a friend at the top of the chart there. Okay, so we know how like fashion comes and goes in waves. Certain brands can explode onto the scene, but other brands can like fade away. They might get a resurgence in the future, but while they are sort of dormant, so to speak, there's just no demand for them. G-Star Raw is a good example of this. So let's say go back 15 years, G-Star Raws were the thing to be seen in. Like, you were the Don if you had a pair of G-Star Raw jeans. This day and age, certainly over the last couple of years, I have had very little luck with G-Star Raws. The only exception are the arc jeans, where the sort of the fit is kind of like that. It's like sort of the legs do an arc. I'll put a picture in here because my arms aren't always the best sort of illustrator. But yeah, even the arc jeans that were sort of hyped by various sort of other YouTubers, they didn't really sell as well as I thought they would, which is a bit of a shame. But apart from those, every other sort of aspect of G-Star jeans, I just wouldn't bother with. Yes, you might get the occasional decent sale, but the demand for them just really isn't there. Like the styles, the designs, for the most part, isn't really in currently. It might make a comeback, you never know, but from what I've experienced, they're not really worth picking up. So sorry G-Star, I'm afraid you have to go on the D tier down the bottom. Not saying that is a bad brand of jeans if you want to wear them for yourself, but if you're purely looking to resell them, I think you'd struggle to get a decent price for them based upon what you bought them for. And on a similar note, I'm going to get these two out of the way like simultaneously. Wrangler. The brand number 8, Wrangler jeans. Oh, I feel so bad for Wrangler. Wrangler are like the stalwart of jeans along with Levi's. They've been around for so long, like a jean tradition in the fashion world. And yet the demand for Wranglers just isn't really there. I don't know if they're sort of picked as like an old man jean, if that's fair to say. Like, I know the designs are a bit more of the classic fit rather than like slim or something like that, but from what I've found reselling, Wranglers just do not sell very well at all. I once sold a pair of Wranglers for £20, which I was over the moon with, but for the most part I struggled to get 15 to 17 for them, even in good condition, even with a good size. So again, like G-Star, sorry Wrangler, you deserve so much better, but you have to go on the D tier until they pick up. Or unless I find like a really nice vintage pair of Wranglers, I just can't see the brand doing any better. I actively avoid picking up Wranglers for the most part because I know they're not going to sell very well. So sorry Wrangler, but it is what it is. And finally, we're going to end on a jeans manufacturer that, oh boy, this jeans manufacturer is really good, right? I would say go out and find this brand, no, seek it out because it can sell really well. But the fact it's so often faked does hold it back a little bit. And that is Armani jeans. Yeah, of course, Armani. You've got Emporio Armani, you've got Giorgio Armani, you've got Armani Exchange, which is like the sort of like budget tier of Armani, and stuff like Armani Collezioni, stuff like that. Armani jeans, if you can find an authentic pair in good condition and a good size, you're in the money. Because these guys are so expensive new. The second-hand market is just going to be flourishing with people wanting that quality pair of jeans but not wanting to pay the high price of the retail price. But my goodness, if ever there was a manufacturer of jeans that is faked more than any others, for the most part, it's Armani jeans. I reckon for every legitimate pair I've found, which hasn't been many, I reckon they're outnumbered by 8 or 9 out of 10 of fake ones. And there are some blimmin' good fakes out there as well, so just be super careful if you do find a pair. Just check the stitching, check the quality of the material, check the wash labels, make sure that the logos aren't like all skew whiff. Like I said, if you can find a legitimate pair for a good price, you're in the money. But there are so many good fakes out there, I'd say definitely proceed with caution with these guys. Ranking wise, I think given the number of fakes out there, it's going to be C tier again. I know it's an insult to the Armani brand, but I've fallen foul of buying fakes of Armani's before. Yes, I've learned a lesson, but ultimately it sucks to buy something that you think is legitimate, but ultimately isn't. Put it this way, if you can find a good pair of Armani's at a good price, A tier brand. But if you find a pair of fakes, that's not even D tier, that's like U tier. You've wasted your money, you can't sell them. It's basically just bin fodder. So as an average, C tier. That's fair, right? And that's about it. So a little run through of different sort of jean manufacturers that I've sold over the last sort of 2 or so years. Like I said, I love selling jeans. I love seeking out like new jean manufacturers just to see how well they do. One thing I will say is I missed out a lot of decent jeans brands in this video. True Religion for a start, Dolce & Gabbana, D squared. Oh goodness, what else have I sold? I've sold lots of different brands, but only one. And I kind of want to give you an idea of how these brands sell as an average rather than a sort of like a one-off sale, because how they sold for me might be completely different to how they sold for you. I want to take like a law of averages for what I've sold to give you a better idea of how they sell, if that makes sense. And despite what I said, even like lower tier jeans, if that makes sense, can still sell well in the right size, in the right condition, in the right sort of like design. Stuff like Fat Face, Quicksilver, Volcom, Billabong, Element, stuff like that. Like surfy brands and more like sort of like high street brands. The jeans can still sell well. If you can pick them up for a couple of quid, you might get sort of 15 to 17 for them. So there's definitely a demand for all sort of levels of jeans. Like, people always want jeans, but they're always going to be in demand to some degree. But it's finding those jean types, those jean manufacturers, those rare washes, those rare sort of designs amongst the sort of the fodder. Those can net you the best money. So keep an eye out for them. Learn your brands, learn your fitments, learn your washes, and you can make some really good money from jeans. So thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do like, comment and subscribe. Until the next one, I'll see you then. Take care. Goodbye.